I'm Linda Lurch. Stay tuned for On the Air with ATRO, a program brought to you by the Abington Township Rockledge Borough Republican Organization. Coming up next on Channel 190.
Hi, I'm Kevin Supka. Welcome to On the Air with ATRO, a program brought to you by the Abington Township Rockledge Borough Republican Organization. Welcome to our show. Our guests tonight are Dom Giordano from 1210 AM on your dial, the Big Talker.
The Big Talker. Thanks, Kevin.
And Dom's son, DJ Giordano. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
Nice
to be here. Thanks for having us here.
Good to have you here. Dom, I'd like to throw out a couple of questions to you first, if I can. You know, 2 years ago, in the 2006 elections, it seemed like the General Electric wanted to basically run out almost every Republican, if you will, in the country. Mm-hmm. Now, 2 years later, it seems to be exactly the opposite.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? What do you
My thoughts are, thank you, President Obama, for misreading the American public, for going way over the line, and thank you, Kevin, for what I think, I've been doing talk radio 23 years. This is the single most exciting movement I've seen, the Tea Party movement. It has been incredible to see what these folks have done at a grassroots level.
Yeah, it is. It has been pretty amazing. In fact, I was going to ask you, in your years as a commentator and an interviewer, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I haven't, and you know, it's gone through several moments where you think this possibly can't keep up the energy, the level, the type of stuff that we've seen. I remember when Rick Santelli on CNBC talked about throwing the tea in there, and people got this idea, and we had these small rallies, etc. Now to a level where just in the last week, the NAACP has a special report, a year-long expose on the Tea Party movement. I know these folks. These are patriots, common citizens who are doing day jobs and then showing up to give them hell. And somehow or another, they're being called Nazis, racists, and AstroTurf.
And AstroTurf, exactly. And it doesn't seem to be all that terribly ideological.
No, they've stuck to message. That's the thing I really like about them. They haven't gone hog wild. They haven't gone off message. Small government, lower taxes, and really identity as Americans. The way things, when they say we want our country back, what they mean is we don't want big government intrusion. We don't want to end up like Sweden, Finland, or the country du jour. We want to be America. That's exactly what they're saying. And that message has taken off with independence. And people like me, heck, I played Benjamin Rush in full breeches and wig in front of 500 people for them. And I found out that Benjamin Rush actually organized a Philadelphia Tea Party in which they were going to tar and feather the British if they showed up to sell tea. I never would have known this. They tapped into the Founding Fathers and made it interesting and exciting.
And it seems to have really resonated.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously. Yeah, one of the issues, obviously, that's out there that's looming very large is health care. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was supposed to be, Obamacare was supposed to be a fix for health care. In your opinion, how do you think that's helped or hurt local folks here in Pennsylvania, maybe even particularly in the Abington area, Glenside area?
Well, we haven't seen, I know in Scranton there's a big controversy right now, Pennsylvania, where a number of hospitals have closed, and this is seen as the foreboding of what's going to happen with Obamacare. We fully haven't seen the tentacles of this, but people DJ's age are starting to see it, in which they're going to be mandated to buy health care, even if they have difficulty with it, and even if they're relatively helpful, knock on wood.
Knock on wood, exactly. Our local state representative, Josh Shapiro, is obviously running for re-election. Seems to be a well-liked individual in the district. And I think mainly because if you're a resident here and you get the local paper, Josh, particularly around election time, is always photographed with one of these very large checks that he gives out. And it never ceases to amaze me because the people that are in receivership of the check are getting their own money back. Mm-hmm. But you would think they were getting a handout.
Right.
And we all know that the money that funds those checks is known as WAMS money.
Right.
Do you think that's gone too far? Do you think the average voter really ought to care about WAM money?
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as we seem to try to get that away from Pennsylvania, WAM money, walking around money for viewers, it comes back again and again and again. And I know in the air, I feel like once I was called a bad guy because I said, taking $5,000 and giving it to this Little League team, what about this Little League team over here? Well, somebody's connected. They're going to do more for this guy. And you know what? If I ever run for office, I'm showing up with a sandwich board check every day. It works with people. But on the national level, with my favorite, of course, Congresswoman Allison Schwartz, this notion of bringing home the bacon, all we're doing is redistributing taxpayer money, money that should stay with us, that Republicans know, and we should de-emphasize this idea of bringing stuff back to the district, and we ought to look at keeping your own money.
And of course, as we know, that money first goes to Washington, gets washed,
laundered, yes,
so to speak,
yeah, exactly,
and then gets sent back to us.
Yeah.
You mentioned Allison Schwartz, our local congresswoman.
Maybe it's as if I have.
No one has seen her. No one has seen her in the area. Do you think she's hiding for some reason?
Well, we know she's hiding from me because any event I've been at, she runs. The mere mention of my name sends terror through. Hi, Allison, out there, if you happen to see this. And I do know, too, that she runs from her constituents. I mean, she did not hold any town halls, which, Kevin, as you may know, I say on the air, if you refuse to hold town halls, you should not be a congressperson. If you can't face your constituents, because if they're out of line, if they yell out, they can be removed. Nobody's saying to be abused. Patrick Murphy can't face them, Allison Schwartz, these are two of the best, and they've given us the telephonic town hall, hiding behind a switchboard, determining who to bring up. Yes, Allison, you're great. Yes, Allison, you're a moderate, when really, we know differently. Hi, Allison, this is Jane Fonda. That's what you're really about.
Exactly. And in fact, there was one time when she was purportedly going to bring Jane Fonda in.
More than purportedly. I have the invitation. My wife got one of them. Jane Fonda was going to be the lunch speaker, and then this is at the height of Jane Fonda's notoriety.
Interesting. What do you think about the Schwartz race?
Well, I think Adcock is somebody that has really gotten some traction, and this is the first time in a long time that we've seen that happen. And I'm very encouraged, whatever happens, certainly I think he has a reasonable chance to win, but that this is a long process of educating people out here in Montgomery County, Abington area, etc., about the real Allison Schwartz, and that guys like Adcock, given his background, how solid they are when it comes to lower taxes, smaller government, and just common sense, rather than Nancy Pelosi of the East, Nancy Pelosi of Jenkintown.
It's a very good comparison. And what's interesting, too, she seems to be very consistent with many of her peers who have worked over the last year in putting legislation through like TARP, like the stimulus bill, like the omnibus budget bill that went back and corrected the stimulus bill because no one read the stimulus bill, health care, card check. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and yet you don't see her running on any kind of a record whatsoever.
No, just these gauzy ads, because this district has, in some minds, drifted to a safe district, and that's what they do in a safe district. We should be happy that they show up occasionally, that we see them. There's no debate, there's no issues, there's no engagement. And it takes a while to puncture this, and this is the first election cycle that we're starting to see some of the puncturing happening. And I think Adcock, the campaign that he's run, the name recognition that he's gotten out there, all this is helpful toward building this. And sometimes it takes a while. Heck, Barney Frank had to borrow $200,000 of his own money, allegedly have his boyfriend show up to heckle the other guy. That tells me these Democrats are on the run. If your boyfriend has to show up to heckle the other guy in a debate, you're sweating a bit.
And as we've seen in the last few days, the major media talking about the fact that most of these races are quote-unquote tightening up, when in fact, if you look at most metrics out there, it doesn't really seem to be the case. Is that something you're seeing?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this Toomey Sestak poll that's out there is one of those. The pollsters that I've had on, like Terry Madonna and others, are not buying that suddenly Joe Sestak, who's done nothing, is 2 or 3 points ahead when he's been 7 to 9 points behind continuously. So I don't put any stock in that. That's an old, desperate trick. The race guard comes out, the phony conspiracies come out. Heck, the Chamber of Commerce is public enemy #1 to Democrats.
Exactly. We'll continue in just a moment. We'll be right back after these messages.